Hey, folks, welcome back to another episode of the California Clays podcast. I'm your host, Henning. My guest today is Tom John, a nine-time California State Champion, California Sporting Clays Hall of Famer, and longtime competitor who's represented Team USA in both Sporting Clays and FITASC. Tom won his first California State Championship back in 1993, so he's had a front row seat to more than 3 decades of California clay shooting history. Today, we're going to talk about those early days, how the sport has changed, and how Tom developed his own approach to shooting and coaching. We'll get into how he trains, how he uses his eyes, his philosophy on breaking targets, and what all those years of competition have taught him. We'll also talk about Tom's life outside of shooting, including his career working behind the scenes in Hollywood. So let's just jump right in. Tom John, welcome to the California Clays podcast. Thank you for finally joining me on this.
Hello, Henning.
How are you doing?
I'm really good. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. Now that you're here. So, hey man, it's so I've known you for a little bit through this indirectly, right? In California clay shooting, you've been kind of synonymous with clay shooting in California. Your name's always come up, even from when I first started. You're a 6-time and actually technically a 9-time California state champion, 6 under the NSCA, 3 under the the USSCA?
Yes.
The predecessor to the NSCA. So
Well,
let's
they were both going at the same time for a while.
Oh, really? Okay, I didn't know that.
Yes.
So what's the story behind that? So the USSCA started first, or
That part I don't really know, because the club that I started at more and more was all USSCA at that time.
okay,
And Mike Rahagis, another local club that I shoot at, they were USSCA.
okay,
And then as time went on, the USSCA started to wind down. The NSCA stepped in and took all the clubs. So a lot of history there. And one of the guys that could tell you exactly when it started would be Dan Carlisle. Him and Mike Rahagi were instrumental in starting that down there. They were the first club that I know of on the West Coast that was shooting USSCA.
okay, in California. Okay, so the
Yes.
USSCA was they started, but NSCA started around the same time. Why were there two organizations running sporting clays at that time? Do you know, or?
It was like a big competition, and it
Okay.
was really good for the shooters because you had your choice for a while. You could go to an NSCA shoot, or you could go to a USSCA shoot, and they were competing on who was going to give away the best trophies and everything, and
Mhm.
you had your choice of which direction to go.
So before any of those organizations were around, what were you doing? You were working, what got you into clay shooting sports?
I shot trap for a long time. I was a 27-yard handicap trap shooter, shot it for a long time. And when I started the heavy wrecker service, I backed out of trap shooting and put my time towards the business. And then one of my neighbors was a LA City fireman, and he come to me. He wanted to shoot the fire police Olympics, and he come over to the house quite often and seen a lot of my buckles and stuff that I won trap shooting. And he asked me. He said, "Hey, would you teach me to shoot?" And I said, "Sure." He goes, "Well, I want to go to the Olympics, the police Olympics and the fire Olympics." And I said, "Okay." I said, "Anytime you want to go, let me know." He goes home, comes back in about an hour. "Let's go." And, I hadn't been around shooting forever. So I said, "Okay, well, I got one of my old Model 12s out for him." And I had a brand new Perazzi combo set that I had before I quit trap shooting.
Hmm.
So I said, "Where do you want to go?" He says, "Well, there's a new range." And I said, "Okay, let's go." And he takes me up to Angeles rifle range. And we pull in, and I'm looking around, and I go, "Hey, there's no trap fields here. There's never been trap fields here." He goes, "Oh, no, this place just opened." Well, I walk in and there's Pat Moore, a trap shooter that I knew.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of talked a minute and he goes, "You got to try this game. This is Sporting Clays." I said, "What is Sporting Clays?" Well, he said, he explained what it was. Well, a couple other shooters come in, a guy named John Clordy, which was a pretty famous trick shooter in California. He was going to shoot, so he took us around. And when we got done, I walked back and talked to Pat, and Pat said, "What'd you think?" I said, "That's a blast, you know." He says, "Well, we're going to have the California State Championship in 2 weeks."
Really? Okay. So it was already established. People are already competing.
Yes.
Okay.
Every month he was having a tournament, and I guess he'd been open for like a year before I found out about it. Well, he told me, he says, he looked at the scoreboard and he said, "You really shot that with your trap doubles gun?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "You need to come to the state championship."
Mm-hmm.
So I went to the state championship and won the first day.
You're kidding me.
No, won the first day, come back the second day, won the second day, and ended up winning the state championship for the first time.
2 weeks into shooting Sporting Clays.
Yes, I
That's
was
hilarious.
hook, line, and sinker.
So
And
how did you even get into trap shooting? When was the first time a shotgun entered your life?
9 years old.
Okay. So this was like a family thing. Your family took you out.
No, um, my mom was really good friends with a man by the name of Jim Doherty, Marilyn Monroe's husband.
Mm.
And well, it was her first husband. He was an LAPD police officer. And he was the range instructor for LAPD. So his job was to train pistol shooting and shotgun shooting to all the police officers.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was out on a ranch, and Jim was up there dove hunting one day, and I was working around the ranch, and I walked by him. He was on a stand of eucalyptus trees hunting doves, and I went over and sat, and we were talking. And he walks up and puts a jug on the fence post, and he says, "Here, you want to try and hit that?" And he handed me a Browning Broadway, and I shot the first shot, hit that jug and hit it. Next thing you know, he says, "Hey, you know, after you get out of school, why don't you come by the house and help me box ammunition, and I'll take you shooting on the weekends."
Hmm.
So I said, "Okay." So I started boxing ammunitions. Well, Sunday morning, he'd come over and pick me up, and we go out and shoot 22s. We'd shoot revolvers back then, 38s, 357s. And every weekend I started shooting with him. And then it got to the point where we got the shotguns out. And that was another hook, line, and sinker moment for me. The first time I broke a clay target, it was like, that's all I thought about. That's all I wanted to do for, well, you know, over and over and over every Sunday. And then when we didn't go on a Sunday, it was like, you know, I'd sit home and just go nuts all day, you know.
You'd be craving it, fiending for it.
You know, so, you know, I got to be, as I grew a little bit, I started hunting with Jim a lot, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. Then, you know, Jim moved away, and he moved up to, after he retired out of the police department, he moved to Maine. So I kind of lost touch with him. So every time I could con somebody into taking me to the shooting range, I'd go up and start shooting trap. And never had a coach, you know, other than Jim showing me a few things. But you know, pretty much what I know, I learned on my own. And I mean, me and my buddies, we couldn't afford to shoot targets a lot back then, so we'd go out to the desert and throw bottles in the air. Anything you could throw in the air, we shot at it.
Mhm.
So it was a good start, but when I started putting a little bit of age on and got my driver's license, then I was able to take myself to the trap range and about shot myself into poverty. And,
So
and
your parents weren't into it, your family wasn't into it. It was this gym guy that initially introduced you to it. You were hooked, and then you found any way you could to go back and shoot and get more under your belt.
yes, and as I started shooting targets, then my dad come out and started shooting targets, but he was never really hooked on it. I mean, he shot a couple years in the NSCA and then just dropped out of it. He didn't
Mhm.
he didn't enjoy it that much. He just did it to come out and hang out with me.
So let me ask you this. So it obviously was addictive for you. I could totally relate, as most of us who are listening to this podcast can, right? We're all addicted to the sport. We all love it. But what about it made it addictive for you? What did you like about it better than anything else?
I don't know. I don't even know how to answer that. Guns have just been fascinating to me, and it doesn't matter what it is. I mean, rifles, precision rifles. I have a bunch of them. They're I got into that for quite a while, and the rifles are pretty awesome.
Hmm.
Pistols, I can take or leave. I'm not a big pistol fan, but shotguns, moving targets, that was just something that I've been fascinated with since I was a young kid.
Yeah. No, I can relate as well. Now you obviously started off doing pretty well. I'm assuming here because your hand-eye coordination is very good. You were hitting and plinking targets right off the bat when Jim introduced you to the gun. How was it when you first started shooting? What was it like?
You know,
Were you good from the start, or did it kind of take some time? Or
I was pretty good at the start.
okay,
I mean, and Jim was a amazing shot, but by the time I was about, I think probably 11 years old, I was standing on the 27-yard line in buddy shoots with him, and there used to be a gun club here, Golden Valley Gun Club. It's where Whiteman Airport is now. They tore the club down to build the airport. Um, he'd take me to pot shoots and turkey shoots up there, and I was able to hold my own at a real young age, and especially when in a buddy shoot. We won a lot of buddy shoots.
did you always have good eyes? Do you think that contributed to it? Did you play any other sports prior to that?
Uh, I pitched in baseball for quite a while as a kid, and I was okay at that. I did really well at that, but my eyes have always been super good. And then a couple of years ago, the train derailed.
Mhm.
So it's been it's been a journey, I'll tell you.
Can you define what super good is? Like, do you know what your eyesight was back then? Was it like 2015,
It
2020?
was it was 2015, and I could
Okay.
watch a target spinning. I could see the lines on the target spinning,
Okay.
and I had that until I was about 52 years old,
Hmm.
and then it started. I went to 2020 when I was about 52, and just recently it's been now I'm 2050,
And
and
do you have correction for it and everything that do you like wear
no,
contacts or what do you do?
no, I wore contacts from the time I was about 52,
Hmm.
and um, I did really well with the contacts, but then I had a vitreous tear in my left eye and went through a surgery. So uh, I have
A separation of the retina, right? That's what the vitreous.
well, it's not a retina separation. What it does in the front of your eye in the vitreous, it blows a hole in it.
Mm.
And I was at a shoot, and I told Grace, I can't see these left-handed targets coming out. I'm late on everything. I don't know what's going on, and I'm surprised I could have hit my if I could have hit my pickup truck in the parking lot that day. And I was driving down the street and closed my right eye, and I was completely blind in the left eye. And so I went to an emergency hospital, and they sent me to the specialist, and she told me that I had a tear in the retina, so had to go undergo a surgery for that, and that was an experience of a lifetime.
Oh, I bet. I bet. Um, going back to the sporting clays component, what was it like in California in the sporting clays? How are the targets?
Yeah, it's funny you say that. The targets were really good. We thought back then.
Yeah.
We had some pretty good target setters for that time.
Okay.
Um, One of them, I don't know if you've ever met Bruce Barsati.
I've never met him. I've heard about him though.
Let
Did
me
he
tell you
run
what.
River Road or one of the?
Yes,
Okay.
he was an amazing target setter.
Hmm.
Um, I drove up there a lot to his tournaments just to shoot his targets. I mean, he was kind of he was he was one that really started um, the harder targets in sporting clay. Some of the places you went, I mean, it was kind of 20 yards, 30 yards was a long target. And
Oh,
Bruce,
really? Okay.
oh yeah,
What about the machines? Because I keep hearing about Dave Feline machines. Feline machines were a really popular type of machine back then. It was a gentleman from Northern California, I believe, who
yeah,
created these machines out of like car parts, actually,
yes.
and then made that, and that was kind of like the standard back then. Is that what you guys were, or they were using back then, or?
No, I didn't get to shoot on the Feline machines very much. Not many
Okay,
people had them.
that was
The
more of a Northern
northern
California thing
the
then, maybe.
Northern California
Okay,
clubs had them, and um, Bruce had his own machine that he built back then. It was called the Universal.
okay,
But when I first started, there was only a couple uh, machines on the course, and the rest of them you'd have a trapper walk from station to station, and they used handsets.
okay.
And that's how it started. And Rahagis used handsets for years, and then uh, I forget that. Dumatic, and I forget where Dumatic was built, but Dumatic started getting machines in the U.S. and Dumatic in California was really big. More and more went total automatic machines with the Dumatics, and got rid more and more at one time was about 95% handsets when he first started, and then it went to the Dumatics, and that's where it all started. But Pat Moore was a good target setter too. Um, he had 3 state championships at More and More, and a Zone 7
As a USSCA or NSCA or both?
USSCA.
Okay,
And Pat switched over to NSCA when USSCA went out.
okay.
And Mike Rahagi was the same way. He stayed with USSCA. As I remember, he stayed with the USSCA, and he had 1 state championship down at his place.
Hmm.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think it was the last USSCA state championship was at Rahagi's.
What clubs existed there around that time that don't exist anymore?
Uh,
River Road.
River Road is,
Everyone talks about River Road.
yeah. Five Dogs is in Bakersfield, and they're not currently. They still have a sporting clays range, but they're not throwing any kind of registered targets at the moment. We're hoping they come back because it's a really, really nice place to shoot.
Hmm.
Um, we had Winchester Canyon in Santa Barbara. I don't know if you ever heard of that one.
No, Winchester Canyon.
Yeah,
Interesting. Okay, no.
yeah, Winchester Canyon, and they
Related to
were
the Winchester Ammunition Company or
no, no.
completely
It was
different?
just a
Okay.
They hung on it. It was in the top of the mountains up off one of the main highways going up over the mountain in Santa Barbara. And
Okay.
we'd regularly go up there and shoot their shoot, but they never held registered shoots. They always held a non-registered shoot once a month on a Sunday. And that was a great place to shoot.
So you were traveling a lot all over Northern California, or not Northern California, Southern California in general to compete.
Well, mainly to River Road and more and Rahages. And that was pretty much the circle that I
Was there
kept.
anything up north at that time?
Um, Not at that time. Later on, Morgan Hill started, and I think they're still
Oh,
going.
right, Coyote Valley.
Coyote Valley.
Okay.
Um, I'm trying to think. There was another place north up by Willows, out in the rice fields that had a range going out in the rice fields at one time. They held the Budweiser Classic there in I think 92 or 93. And
This wasn't Rahages North.
no,
Okay,
no,
something
that
else.
wasn't even in existence at that time.
Okay.
But they held one big shoot up there, and it was a really nice shoot they held, and then never had another one. And from what I hear, they sold all their machines and got out of it.
Is it because it's a tough business and it was still like a growing sport and it just hadn't grown enough, or what do you think?
I don't know. The one shoot they had up there, they had everybody from Nevada and all over the place
Yeah.
drive up there and shoot that shoot. I mean, it was a really big shoot, and somehow they got Budweiser to step up to the plate on it, which is kind of unheard of in this sport. Nobody
At
sponsors.
least nowadays, yeah, it would be
Yeah.
amazing to be able to get some sponsors like that. It's great. It's great that we have Jack Links even doing it, so
Yeah.
that's great to hear. So what clubs were, really responsible for building the sport in California, you think?
You know what? I would have to hang that on Mike Rahagi. He
Okay.
was a pioneer, and I think that I don't know it for a fact, but I think Dan and Mike were super close. They were super close friends. And
Is Dan originally from California? Like I keep hearing about Dan in all these podcasts unintentionally. Like, apparently I'm interviewing all of his students or people that have worked with them or know him just indirectly. But he's obviously had a huge impact on the sport over the years. Is that right?
oh, he has. He's one of the greats.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that I don't know Dan's history where he if he resided in California most of his life. I think now he's in Texas, but Dan was part of getting that going down at Rahages. And like I say, Mike Rahages pioneered it in California. And then River Road came in, and Bruce took it to a whole nother level. Pat Moore was in Reno at the time. And I don't know if you know any of Pat Moore's history, but
not his history, but I know about the More and More Club and Corey and his, I think it's his son Corey, right? Pat's son.
yes,
Corey? Yeah.
yes.
So I met them. I met Pat very briefly, but I don't know them well.
He had Mom's Shooting Park.
Okay.
And Mom's Shooting Park, we won't get into that, but Mom's got closed down, and Pat opened a sporting clays range on the old Mom's Shooting Park.
Mm-hmm.
And then he heard about an opportunity at Angeles and wanted to move out of Reno. And he come down and looked at Angeles and cut a deal with them to open More and More. And that was, I think, early 89, maybe 88, late 88.
Okay.
And that's how More and More started.
And that's just right around the time that Sporting Clays came to the United States. Am I right? Or it was the
Yes.
early 80s and then later in the 80s, California Sporting Clays kind of started growing?
I think Mike Rahagi started in '88.
Mhm.
Dan Carlisle could answer that one, but he was I think he started in early '88, maybe
Mhm.
'87. But it was when I started, it was fresh in the United States when I started finding out about it.
How many people were shooting back then? Like, do you know how many competitors there were?
Um, the I'd have to look at some of the stuff, but there was a lot of competitors.
Hmm.
Rahagi's has always drawn a lot of competitors. There's a lot of shooters around that area down where Rahagi's is, and their fun shoots are huge. To the point where they got to run two flights. Otherwise, you're out there for hours on end trying to get 100 rounds through. Um, as I remember, the state shoots were about 150 to
Okay.
start. Um, that's pretty much. I think the first state shoot I won there was 152 entries there, as I remember.
Okay. It seems like, well, the sport's obviously grown. I think this last state shoot we had 299, I want to say. Does that sound right to you?
Yes.
I think I looked at it at one point, and I know you're on the board as well, so you probably have a lot of stats and details about this too. Have you seen the ebbs and flows of people competing here in California, like over time? Has it grown to a really large amount and then shrunk, and or has it been pretty stable and consistent?
Henning, that's a good question because if I think it all has to do with how people are doing money wise. What I'm
Right.
seeing,
Okay.
you're not seeing the kids coming into this sport, and if you do see them come into this sport, the youngsters, the minute they grow up and leave mom and dad, guess what?
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. Once they're not subsidized anymore, they're,
no,
moving on to girls and school and work and everything else. So,
I watched some really awesome juniors coming up, and all of a sudden, bam, they're gone.
mhm.
When they're on their own dime and mom and dad aren't footing the bill, shooting becomes secondary.
Yeah.
So it's I don't know how you're ever gonna fix that, getting kids into the sport. That's a hot topic every board meeting. How are we going to get more shooters into the sport? And the answer is we got to get more kids in the sport.
Hmm.
Well, if mom and dad can't afford it, how are you going to get them into the sport?
Right.
You know,
It feels like so the history of shotgun shooting or as a sport, not as the hunting side of it, but it's always been tied to affluence, it seems like it. It was a gentleman's sport, noble sport, in Europe, et cetera. And I feel like we're kind of heading back to that rather than it being this, more accessible sport like it used to be. Because trap shooters, skeet shooters, that used to be kind of like the all-American thing to do, early on in the whatever decade you want to talk about. I'm not that much of a historian on this, but I feel like with the pricing and everything the way it's going, it is getting restrictive. But I'm also seeing that the sport still is growing and it's kind of migrating to this more affluent demographic. The 30 plus or the 40 plus year olds are getting into it more now, and they have the disposable income, they have the time, they have the wherewithal to kind of buy the more expensive guns and go to the tournaments and compete and spend that extra money. So sometimes I wonder if the youth is really the future, or is it really my demographic, for example. I'm 48. So people in my demographic, I'm starting to see coming to the sport. These shoots are growing. They're not shrinking. They're getting sold out before you can even sign up these days. So I don't know. What's your take on that?
that's your hardcore shooters selling out those shoots.
Yeah.
Those are the people that have been in it and chasing it. I'm seeing a lot of what you just described
Hmm.
because my lessons have been going crazy with guys that are freshly retiring, and the 35-year olds that are driving brand new cars, and they're coming out and they're running down to Pacific Sporting Arms and dumping a wad of money on a new DT11 or a Krieghoff.
Yeah.
I I see a lot of that, but I don't see a lot of juniors coming into the sport,
Hmm.
and that's a that's a shame.
Yeah. But let me ask you this though. So we do see a lot more of the junior teams growing and developing through SCTP. And then they seem to migrate over to NSCA. And or is that I mean I'm speaking anecdotally, but has that been your experience too? Because I feel like there's more junior shooters now than when I first started 13 years ago. And maybe I'm just seeing it anecdotally, but isn't that the case or
Not that I see. I see a lot
yeah,
of the kids going to college and getting on the shooting teams, yes. But
true.
um, you're talking about the cream of the crop kids that have really done well in the sport, and they end up going to a college and getting a scholarship on it, and that's fantastic. And um, I had a student years ago that did the same thing, and his dad passed away, and I've never seen him since.
Mm,
And that was the end of that. And but I think I think the people that have disposable income that have a great job are the ones coming into the sport, um, more than the young shooters.
hmm.
I'd like to see a lot more young shooters come in, but it just doesn't seem like they hang with it. My son shot for years and come to me one day and said, "I don't want to shoot anymore, Dad." I
Mm,
said, "Okay." And my son was a really, really good shot.
hmm.
Uh, he won a couple zones as a sub junior, won a couple, I think probably 4 or 5 state championships as a sub junior between Arizona and Nevada. And I took him all over with me, and he did really well. And, he had his sight set on getting into the big boats, and now that's what he does.
Right on.
He's got
Well,
the he's got the big 120 to 150-mile-an-hour Havasu boats now.
okay, so
I,
he's the adrenaline junkie then, huh?
yeah, I asked him, "Hey, you want to go shooting?" "No, I'm going to the river." So,
Going back to the history, you've seen this evolve over time, and this is what I've always been curious about clay shooting in California because I started in Northern California. You were obviously down in Southern California, and I feel like the shooting cultures are similar but also different. It's still California shooting, but it's also different because of where the clubs are located, the people down there, and vice versa. So when you've been to places like Bird's Landing, Coyote Valley, Triple B, Rahagi's, been all over, what was different about the shooting cultures whenever you'd go to those clubs, or was there anything different?
no, California shooters are California shooters.
Yeah,
Um, the shooting public in the general, really good people.
yeah,
It doesn't matter where you go,
that's a good point. Yeah,
and uh, the people at River Road, um, they don't. A few of them don't shoot anymore. Albert Bogetti, I'm sure you've heard that name. I know you
yes,
know Michael Bogetti.
yep.
There was a family hook, line, and sinker into sporting clays, and they just drifted away from it too. And they had, uh, I think it was Albert's son, Albert Jr.'s son, that was just an amazing junior shooter. And I haven't seen him in years either.
Hmm.
So, but the people in sporting clays as a whole are awesome people.
No, you're right. You speak about the Pagettis and some of the other top. Who else were some of the more important California shooters, the top shooters of that time?
Well, there's always been really good shooters in California. Um, Craig Pauley was an amazing shooter.
Okay,
I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
I haven't.
Craig was an awesome shot. He was on the Perazzi team with me years ago when Perazzi wanted to get into sporting clays, and they sponsored a team. Um, you had John Boyle passed away probably 5 or 6 years ago. John Boyle won the national sporting clays championship. I forget what year it was in. It was somewhere 90. 93, 94.
Mm-hmm. And he was a California guy.
Yeah, he was a California shooter.
Was
But
he one of the first Californians to win nationals, or do you know?
yes,
Okay.
yes. John was an amazing shot. But he was in other sports and other shooting sports. As I remember, when John was 13 years old, he went to a trap shoot and won the handicap and won his dad a brand new Chrysler. He was an amazing shot, one of the best shots all around that you could even imagine. Um, but he passed away a few years ago. Um, you had Alan Owens was a good shot. He was a friend of Dan Carlisle's. Um, Dave Ariki.
I've
There's
heard that name. I've heard
a
that name
name
before.
from a long time ago. Dave
Okay.
Ariki. He's up by you. He's up in. Last I seen Dave, uh, he was in San Jose, California.
Okay.
But Dave Ariki was a phenomenal shot at sporting clays. And through the years, there's been a lot of them. You know, Justin Fox is a top competitor.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't shoot much. He got married and found out what being married's like. So he's done. He comes out a couple weeks before the state shoot every year. I see him and go, "Oh yeah, here he comes." You know. So.
Well, you know what's funny? One of the years, I think he didn't even shoot that whole year, and then he came and won the state shoot. I think
He did.
so.
Justin,
Yeah, he's definitely a talent. I know he's put. I interviewed him early on in the podcast life, if you will, and he kind of mentioned he'd been shooting since a junior. He'd really gotten into it hardcore, and then just life kicks in sometimes, and it's really hard to kind of stick with it. Yeah.
It does. Justin was unbelievable as a junior. He's another Zach.
Yeah.
Him and Zach they were the pride of California when they were juniors. Boy, they were tearing it up. And Justin learned from Dan Carlisle.
Okay.
And Jay Bersini. I don't know if you've heard that name.
I know that was Justin's coach, right? Jay Bersini.
Yes.
And he was a shooter as well. I don't know him, but
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Jay was a shooter, and he didn't shoot a lot, but Jay was a good shot, and he was probably a better coach. I mean, look at Justin. I mean, right. he coached Justin a lot and had a good run with Justin.
So I know Zach. You and Zach were both inducted into the Hall of Fame the same year, 2012, and Zach, obviously professional shooter. He's been doing it. Everyone knows who Zach Kienbaum is. Started in California from Salinas originally. He's someone I've taken lessons from, and Desi and him are probably the ones that have, for me, been as coaches, have helped me the most with the way they communicate. The way it's like talking to a buddy, because we're same age, same air. We kind of grew up around the same kind of people, so it just made sense, right? Like Grace talked about this in the last podcast. Matching up with the coach is all about the personality of each other, right? And matching that up. And so Zach's always been that for me. But what was Zach like back then? I mean, he was a junior shooter. Obviously, he was a talent because he was shooting well. But what was he like back then?
He was an awesome kid. I really liked Zach's parents.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? Zach was always a super nice kid. He hasn't changed any. But Zach, you knew Zach was going to be good from the time he started. I mean, he just started really starting to shoot good. And, I was talking to his dad one day, and I told him, I said, that kid's gonna be a great shot.
What did you see? What did you see in him that made you come to that conclusion, other than his results?
Just the drive. I mean, you know what? I'd go up to River Road every once in a while. I'd get off work and be able to leave at 4:00 in the morning and drive and get up there at shoot time, because I think River Road was, if I remember right, probably 5.5 hours for me.
Oh, really? Okay.
And I drive up there for a day shoot and then drive home. That's how bright I was.
Wow. Where was River Road? I still don't know that.
Gonzales. just
Gonzales. Okay.
north of Salinas.
Okay.
It's up. It was off the coast, up on the foothills, and man, you talk about a really cool range. Shooting in the oak trees, his whole course was down through the oak tree groves, and it was pretty awesome.
So it was close to Zach. That was a huge benefit to him, I'm sure then.
Yeah, I think Zach pretty much lived there for his
Junior years.
junior years. I think he uh, occasionally his dad would bring him down and he'd shoot more and more. Or he'd be up at Five Dogs,
Hmm.
and that's when Five Dogs was just starting out back then. Uh, early, I think Five Dogs probably started about 93 or so, and Zach was cleaning up. We had quite a few juniors down here that were pretty good juniors, and Zach used to just pretty much mop the floor with them all over the
Hmm.
place. So,
Was he your competition too? I mean, age difference, but in terms of competition and ability and everything, were you guys neck and neck? Like, who are your other competitors that your rivals, if you would?
Craig Pauly was my biggest competitor. Zach wasn't.
Okay.
It, that the sports changed a lot. Now the juniors are running with the open guys. That didn't happen years ago.
Oh, really? Okay.
No, no. The ladies and the juniors, they weren't 20 targets, 25, 30 targets out of the top. I mean, the lady state championships, if you look back through years gone by, they were winning with, in the 60s.
Hmm.
And the juniors were winning in the 60s and 70s.
Okay.
Um, the big scores weren't coming in from the concurrence, not like today. Today, every class is, yeah, you better not miss very many.
Hmm.
And the ladies have picked it up, and the juniors have picked it up to where now they're kicking on the heels of the open class.
Hmm.
So that in that regard, this sport's changed a lot, and it's probably because the quality of targets that you're shooting today, uh, that's changed a lot too. I mean,
Hmm.
you know what? You don't see targets like you seen 30 years ago in this sport.
Yeah,
These
speaking of which,
horses,
what has California lost from the old days that you wish we could bring back?
I think the sport was a better sport when it was a low gun sport.
Oh, okay.
I
Because it
think they
started
took,
as a low gun. Sporting clays has
well,
always been a low gun sport until what? When was that? When did it change?
I don't know exactly because I disappeared out of the sport for 10 years.
Hmm.
In late 95, I walked off and didn't come back until uh, the state shoot in 2006. I registered enough in 2006. I started shooting. A buddy of mine got me to go with him, and I started shooting again. And about a month later was a state shoot, and I had registered enough targets. But um, that when I came back, they told me, oh yeah, I looked and I go, what are they doing? They're putting the gun on their shoulder because when I left, you couldn't put the gun on your shoulder. You had to have it below the armpit.
Oh, really?
Yes, that was the rule back then. And then when I came back, everybody's mounting the gun, and I'm going, "What is this?"
Yeah.
But um, I exactly when that changed, I have no idea because I was out of the sport by then. I mean, I put my gun away, and uh, I didn't pick that gun up for other than I went to one shoot in that time, and that was at Homer Hanson's place. I went up and shot a shoot that he had. And other than that, I didn't shoot for almost 10 and a half years.
Okay. I want to get into that, but before we leave from, the history of California clay shooting and clay, like the clay history, want to touch on, like, who do you think would belong on the Mount Rushmore of California sporting clays at this point? Sorry if that's putting you on the
I,
spot a little bit, but
you know what? That would be a
I feel like you'd have to be on there. You're, technically 9-time California state champion. So let's just assume that you're on there, but who else would you see on there?
you know, it would have to be probably, I would think probably Craig Pauley
Okay.
if it wasn't me, but more so than us, I think either Pat Moore or Mike Rahagi for bringing and starting it, and or Bruce Barsati. I mean, all three of them were instrumental in getting the sport where it is today in California.
That's fair. And I actually really like that answer because it's not, without them, the shooters wouldn't be on there.
It wouldn't be here.
Right.
And
100%.
I can tell you who's picked up the torch from them. And he's right next door to you.
Who? You're talking about David?
Dave.
Oh, David Martin. Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know what? He's done so much for this sport. You know what? He's getting a big crowd out there, and he is really setting the bar.
David also knows how to work with the what's the word I'm looking for, with the shooter community too. Things roll off his back. He knows how to answer all the questions. He knows how to set the target, set the stage, what's important. He focuses on what's important, which is target setting, making a good experience for the shooters, and moving on from that. So Justin and him have been really utilizing that property really, really well lately, and I've really been enjoying shooting there, and happy to call it my home club as well.
I wish it was closer. I'd wear the place out.
Yeah, I know it's fun. I need to get up there more. I've been lagging a little bit in my training and my doing all that for various reasons, but I love shooting up there. It's one of the best places to shoot here in Northern California.
I haven't been to Golden State yet. I shot it before it was Golden State, but I haven't been up there yet. One of these days, I'll tell you. Another place is Sun Mountain.
Yes,
that's a little bit like River Road. It doesn't quite have as many trees, but if you look at Sun Mountain, that's kind of what River Road was like years ago, and it was a great place to shoot. So
I'm looking forward to the state shoot there next year. So I was really glad to see that they got it. I haven't been there yet. It's about 2-3 hours away from me, so I have to kind of plan ahead. But I've heard a lot of great things. I believe Nathan Green sets the targets over there, and I hear he's been doing a phenomenal job. Everyone's been speaking very highly of it, so I'm excited about that. I have not met Shelly McCormick, also, who I think runs the club, but I'm looking forward to getting down there this year and hopefully next year before the state shoot, so I can check it out.
I met them; they're really nice people, and Nathan Green is really setting great targets.
He's a great shot too. I mean, the guy is a natural as well. I mean, just unbelievable shot. So
yeah, he's where he learned to set targets like he's setting. I don't know, but man, he's really got a good eye for setting targets. I think you'll be surprised when you shoot it.
Yeah, I got to get down there. Well, let's go back to you then. So we covered California's the history a little bit. Like I said, you were a 9-time champion, 3 under the USSCA, 6 under the NSCA. So 93, 94, 2006, 2012, 13, and 14, 3 in a row. Which one was the hardest state shoot for you to win?
None of them.
No? All came pretty easy?
I don't believe when you compete, if you have your mind right, I don't think that any of them are hard until you don't have your mind set on doing or shooting a good score. I mean, when you have good focus, you're not shooting against anybody, you're shooting against yourself.
Yeah.
The only person you're going to beat yourself.
That's a good point.
Everybody talks about mind games and all this. I don't believe that. You know what? I don't go out shooting against anybody. I shoot against myself.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I just you if you're in the right frame of mind and you want to shoot and you're focused on the targets, you're going to shoot good.
So let's talk about that a little bit more. What's focus like for you? How do you get into that mindset?
Feeling like shooting after all these years, I got to feel like shooting.
Okay. So
And
was it more of a hunger thing for you that you were just so addicted to it that that's how you got your focus, but now you're kind of struggling with getting that back, or
no, I don't struggle with my focus. And uh, I struggle more looking at the targets more than I do anything. If I'm seeing the targets good and I'm focusing on the targets, the scores take care of themselves.
Mhm.
I I don't do anything to say that I'm working on my focus. The only thing I believe you should do is go out and look at targets before you get on a course and get your eyes settled on the targets and look at the targets.
Can you touch on that a little bit more? Like, other than looking at the targets and what it means, just literally, what are you doing when you're looking at the targets? Like, what are you telling yourself?
Keep up with the speed of the targets.
Okay.
And, when you're shooting, I believe that, if you're matching the speed of the targets, good things are going to happen. If you're being lazy and you're not looking at the targets and you're not able to keep up with the targets, you're not going to do very well.
So let's dive into that a little bit more. You talk about being lazy with looking at the target. What are you telling yourself not to be lazy when you're looking?
You know, when you call pull, your eyes are only going to hard focus on a target for a certain amount of distance, and then you're going to lose that hard focus on the target. You got to make a plan. I believe that you're going to figure out where you're going to want to break that target, and you're going to back up 5 to 7 feet, come out with that target, and as you're watching it come to the barrel, as it's coming into that barrel, you got to walk on that target, and now you have your barrel awareness and you're on point and you come into that target, boom, you're done, and
Mhm.
um, I hear a lot of different people say a lot of different things, and I don't know. Mental game, you're either a winner or you're not. I mean, you know what, it's gonna um, if you have the desire to win and you got the focus, you're gonna do really well.
Let me ask you this: you come across, from as long as I've known you, as very confident, fearless. I'd say I don't sense any kind of time when you don't feel comfortable wherever you're at. You're always like comfortable where you're at. You're calm. Has there ever been fear or doubt in your mind when you're competing, either in your ability or what you're going to do, or you know, does that happen for Tom John?
No,
Okay.
no. Um, I've never had that. You know what?
So you
Certain
don't
shit.
have a voice in your head that's doubting you or talking to you like, "Hey, don't mess this or don't fuck this." Pardon my
That's the
French, but
worst, in my opinion. When you start having doubts in your head, you better pull your shells out and start stalling until you figure that out and then reload the gun.
oh, okay, okay. So
About
you
the time, you know what, Henning? I, back in 1992, you can, if you can find the records, you should go look at the scores. Everybody was breaking pretty good scores back then. I mean, the scores haven't changed a lot. The courses are harder today, and they're shooting the same scores as they did back in the early days on the softer courses. But you know what? I came close to breaking 100 2 or 3 times in 92, And then I'd start thinking about, I haven't missed. Loss. Here comes another 99. And finally, in I think the middle of 92, I broke 100.
Mm-hmm.
And then the bigger scores were pretty easy to hang with.
Because you've been there before.
Yeah, once you do it, it was like trap shooting. I tried for a long time as a young man to, step up on the singles line, which is the hardest line to shoot, and because you got to break 100 to even be in the shoot off.
Mm-hmm.
At least it was like that years ago. I'm sure it is today. But if you don't break 100, you're an also ran. And with sporting clays, it's a lot calmer than that. You can get away with a miss or two in sporting clays and still survive it. But in trap, you walked out there knowing you had to be perfect. And that gets old after a while.
Sure. You won back to back in 93 and then 94, and then you left, you said, for about 10 years, and then you won again in 2006. So what happened during those 10, 12 years?
Life.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to share if it's personal, but was it just got busy, work? I mean, what was it you think? I mean, did it completely take you out where you didn't even touch a gun and you weren't shooting anything, or did you just not compete?
Well, I didn't shoot for a couple of years.
Okay.
And I back then we got into the heavy wrecker service,
Okay.
and I talked my dad into hawking everything but his shoes to get into the heavy wrecker service. And
Can,
we
can you
bought it.
touch on what that is for folks that may not know?
Well, I had at the time I wanted to get into the diesel rigs and start recovering all the tractor trailers that flipped over on went over the side on the freeway. And
Okay.
so I talked my dad into backing me on that deal. So I walked off from shooting and started that.
Were
And
you in the towing business before that, but just more like consumer vehicles instead of like, commercial or?
well, I had a couple of police contracts. We had Beverly Hills PD, and we had uh, some of the sheriff's department and the highway patrol.
Okay, as a towing company.
We were towing cars, but I got bored with that.
Got
And
it. Okay.
I went to a towing show down in San Diego and walked into this place, and they had a brand new Peterbilt sitting there with a gigantic wrecker on it. And I think I about wore the guy out asking him questions. And about 6 months later, I was sitting at the factory buying one.
Okay. You,
And
you know what's funny is that kind of explains a little bit about how you always stay calm in a lot of situations. I'm sure you've had to deal with a lot of folks that you're towing their vehicle, maybe, or and dealing with some aggressive people, or am I putting words in your mouth there?
oh yeah, yeah,
So you've had to deal with ornery and angry people while you're doing your job
oh yeah,
and have developed kind of a thick hide, I'm going to say.
oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It doesn't take long in that business to get a very thick hide,
Yeah, I bet.
because the police take them to jail, and they can't take it out on the police, so they come to the tow yard, and then they want to take it out on you. You
Yeah, I
know,
bet. I bet.
they're pissed off because they got put in jail, and they're really pissed because their car's in jail too. So, you know, it it was a fun business, but I got very tired of it, and I wanted to uh, I I wanted to get into the heavy duty side of it so bad. I mean, it was just something I wanted to do. And boy, when I got my first one, within about 6 months, I had number two. And I mean, as fast as I could make money, I was adding to the fleet. And
It was much more profitable business, I'm assuming
oh
too.
yeah,
And you're not
yeah.
dealing with the general public either. So it's
No, the only guys I had to deal with in the middle of the night, they'd call us. I'd be home sleeping, 2 o'clock in the morning, the phone ring, and out we'd go. And, the only people I had to deal with was the fire department and the police. And it was a fun business. It was a challenging business. And, we started with mechanical wreckers, and then it all, about 1989, I got my first hydraulic 50 tonner. And at the time, it was one of the biggest wreckers in the United States. And this thing, I mean, it could back up to an 80,000 pound tractor trailer and put it on its wheels by itself. I mean,
Wow.
it was a fun job. It was a challenging job. But man, did you put in the hours? I mean, my average day was, 17, 18 hours a day. So I I didn't go back to shooting for quite a few years, but about I don't know the month, 2006, probably February or March of 2006, one of my buddies um, talked me into going to more and more with him. And next thing you know, I'm down at Triple B the next day shooting a tournament and won the tournament. And that was hook, line,
And you
and
were back
sinker.
back
And
in
here we
back
here
in
we
it again.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I want to ask you something about your work since we're on that topic right now and kind of get a better understanding of this. So I read that I think you're retired now, a Hollywood Teamster, meaning that you've worked on like major motion pictures, hauling heavy equipment and doing different things. For example, I think I read Terminator 2, Enemy of the State, Gone in 60 Seconds, Fast and the Furious 5, The Last Boy Scout, Transformers, Matrix Reloaded, and The Terminal List. So
Yeah.
those are all is that the full list, or have you
Oh
been to
no,
Hollywood?
I've never kept track, Henning.
Yeah.
There's so many. I've never kept track of any of that. Terminal List is a recent one. You can watch it on TV. It's a great watch. Uh,
So what are you doing? Are you hauling like their equipment to place to site, to filming locations, or what exactly are you doing?
well, it depends on what I'm doing with them. Uh, on Terminal List, they called me and said, "Hey, we got a C-130.
Oh wow.
Took the wings off of. We need it transported from Torrance, California, out to Ontario Airport." So I got all the permits and all the pilot cars and high stick trucks and went down there and got it loaded in the middle of the night. And about 4 o'clock in the morning, we took off and got to Ontario Airport about 8 o'clock in the morning and got it unloaded. But if you see all the insert shots where all the actors are on the C-130, that's the fuselage that I hauled down there.
Okay. And then what did you do on Terminator 2?
Terminator 2, the tow truck that went through the bridge off into the wash,
Oh
chasing
really?
a motorcycle. We welded the steering gear straight on it. We put round stock and welded the steering to where the steering couldn't turn, and it would just go in a straight line. And what we did is we put an 8-part line out, and I forget how much wire rope we had, probably about 1,200 feet of wire rope. And they had a cable cutter on it in case of an emergency, in case the thing started going sideways. They have a charge that, like a shotgun charge, that they can blow the cable with. But we did a couple test runs and got it all running straight. And it come showtime, I took off, and they said I had to get to 35 miles an hour to get the rig to 65, and they wanted it at 65 when it hit the wall and went through that wall into the wash. And that's a challenge, running an 18 speed manual shift, trying to get from 0 to 35 in about 300 feet.
Oh
That's doing
wow.
something. And I did it, and the gag went off absolutely perfectly.
First take.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, you only had one take, right? There was
You
no
were going to
way.
get two
Wow.
because they wanted to buy one of my wreckers from me to do that scene. And I told them, absolutely not. You're not wrecking one of my trucks like that. And they said, well, we'll sell it back to you for salvage. And I said, I don't want it. I said, let's build you one. So I went to Bakersfield and got a cab for them. And their effects company rented my truck and put it in their shop. And they built that thing from scratch in
You're
about
kidding.
2 weeks. No.
Wow.
And that's what we used.
Okay.
So that was quite a job. And then on Terminator 2, you remember the tanker in the alley that flipped over?
Oh yeah.
You remember Arnold up on the side of the
Oh yeah.
tanker? That was done behind the tow truck. I had cables underneath that thing, and we were dragging it in the alley.
With Arnold on it or a stuntman
Yes,
on it or
with Arnold on it. And they told me, whatever you do, don't dump him off that. So, yeah. And
Did you ever get to talk to Arnold or?
Yeah, he was cool to work with. He's a shooter too, or was years ago. He used to hang around with the real famous movie writer, John Milius.
Right.
He's
Didn't John do Conan the Barbarian? No, he directed Conan the Barbarian. Yeah, one of my favorite movies.
He did Flight of the Intruder, Red Dawn.
Yeah.
He wrote Apocalypse Now. John was really famous.
Yeah.
And him and Arnold he'd take Arnold and go to the range with him all the time. They used to hang around at Oak Tree years ago and shoot a lot of trap.
You've had a career where tiny mistakes can become a very expensive thing very quickly, right? Do you think that helps you handle pressure?
Hit me with that question again.
The work that you do, right? Any tiny mistake can make can become very expensive. So do you think that's helped you with handling pressure? Or when you come to shooting sports, like pressure doesn't affect you at all?
Well, the job pressure, that's all it was solid pressure. I mean, if you watch, have you ever watched Unsolved Mysteries?
Oh yeah.
There's one of the biggest jobs I ever did for the Highway Patrol. Down here, they were staging accidents years ago where these guys would get 2 or 3 of them in a car and they'd pull in front of a big rig and slam the brakes on and get the big rig to hit them. And it's on Unsolved Mysteries. You ought to look it up and watch it. It was a loaded 9-car carrier. These guys slammed the brakes on the track. The guy in the tractor come around him, but he swerved so hard the trailer flipped over on the guys that were trying to cause the accident.
Oh wow!
And I got the call on it, and nothing like a little bit of pressure. I mean, you got everybody and their mother watching you. You got the fire department there. You got everybody. And I had the heavy rescue from the fire department, and we backed up to that thing and picked all 9 cars and the truck up at one time and got it off the car and got the guys out from underneath it.
Well, when you say got the guys out, were they deceased or?
No, one of them was dead. The guy in the back seat got smashed, but the 2 guys in the passenger, the driver and the passenger were okay. We got them out of it. But yeah, that was that job was it was fun. I mean, you never knew what you were going to get. I mean, I had buses through houses. I had cement mixers through houses.
Wow.
In my career, I think I had over 800 cement mixers in my career flipped over.
You're kidding me.
No.
Is it because of the force of the mixer?
Yeah. Well, when they go to the batch plant and they load the cement and all the sand and everything in the barrel, it's all dry.
Mm-hmm.
And they shoot water to it as they're leaving, just about enough to get it to where it's really stuck. And then as they're going to the job, they start mixing it. But a lot of times when they turn a corner, a lot of times that mud doesn't come down to the bottom, and they turn a corner and it just lays it over.
Oh, wow.
And I've had a lot of them on the freeway. Guys will slam on their brakes and the mixer can't stop, and they flip and go through the center dividers. And I've had a lot of those over the years. I had, when they were building the LA Metro Rail, one of my big accounts, Transit Mix back then, used to be the biggest cement mixer outfit in Los Angeles. They called me up at 2:00 one morning and they said, "Hey, what are you doing tomorrow?" I said, "Sleeping in." He said, "No, you're not. Get up at 6 and get down here as soon as the crews finish pouring. We got 14 mixers laid over."
Oh my God. 14?
14. They built a road. The mixers pulled up on the road and all 14 of them fell over.
Oh my gosh.
The road collapsed a little bit at a time, and the front mixer collapsed first and the other ones couldn't back up. They had all their boosters down and everything. The boosters, that back set of wheels that they set down to pick the weight up, they all laid over. So
this is with people in them?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh, man.
They laid over in soft dirt, didn't hurt anybody.
Okay.
So I spent the whole day down there with my crew getting 14 of them out of there.
Wow. So you've seen some stuff, definitely, and you were always on call, it sounds like it.
Well, I had a really great crew, and when it would start raining down here, it was like, I mean, you never knew what was going to happen. We have an interchange here, the 5 and the 14 interchange. I'm sure you've been through it, where all the tunnels are.
Yeah, California drivers don't know how to drive when it rains.
Well, I was in Vegas at a shoot in Vegas and got a call at 2:00 in the morning and jumped on an airplane and left my gun and everything there. I had to fly home because we had 23 trucks piled up in the tunnels.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. So I jumped on an airplane and come home, and one of my buddies brought my guns home.
Mm.
So it was a great career. I miss it.
You retired now?
Oh yeah. I sold, my son's running one of my rigs right now, and he's partners with me in it. And but I sold all the rest of the trucks. I had 18 of the heavies.
Oh, wow.
And at one time I had 48 trucks at one time. Okay. But with the California laws, the emission laws and everything.
Oh, the CARB rules are, yeah.
At 60 years old, I'm going to put $5 million out for trucks? No.
Right.
So I started selling them off. Now I got trucks strung all over the United States.
Okay. Going back to your shooting, I always ask different shooters kind of like their approach and kind of their philosophy of shooting. And I don't know if that's like a cheesy question here, but I kind of want to get into like how does Tom John, what's your process when you get into a station, like your pre-shot routine, what are you telling yourself? How are you reading the targets? Can you tell us a little bit about like what your planning is and how you do that?
I don't think I have a pre-shot routine.
Really?
No.
Would you consider yourself more of a reactive shooter then, or?
No, I look at the targets and I pretty much know where the sweet spot's going to be for me.
Mm-hmm.
And, but as far as a pre-shot routine, rubbing my ear for good luck or nothing, no.
Yeah.
I just don't buy into that.
It's funny that you say that. And if you don't mind me saying this piece, from my little experience compared to yours. So I went through this phase, and I talked about this on another podcast, where when I first started, I knew nothing. All I did was look at the target, break a target, or miss a target, right? but I would just look at the target and make it happen. And I'd catch myself in old videos where I'm like, man, I was actually pretty decent starting out as a beginner just because I'd look at the target. Then I started learning about all the techniques, the maintain, the pull away, the, every everything, right? Swing through. And then you start thinking about it more and overanalyzing it more. And I'm not saying that those aren't useful things to know and understand and kind of have in your tool belt, but I'm at a stage in my shooting where I feel like I took a break from it for a little bit, came back for the state shoot, shot very little this year. And I kind of feel what you're saying because I feel like for the state, all I did was pay attention to the target, focus on it, match a speed, and connect and break it. And I didn't think about, I'm going to break it here. I'm going to break it there. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. All I did was look at it and that felt right. And that's where I'm going to break it because I matched it and saw it the best right there. Is that kind of what you're getting to or?
Yes.
Okay.
And as far as what method?
Yeah. You would end up doing either one because it just whatever makes it work, right?
Well, it depends on the target, but I believe that you have to learn how to shoot all the disciplines. I teach my clients all the disciplines
Mm-hmm.
because I don't believe that you can get away with one on all these different courses today.
Right.
I mean, me for one, on the slow targets, the slow close targets, I always automatically start on the back of the target and swing through the target.
Mm-hmm.
I do a lot of pull away, but when I get on the big boy targets, I start getting out in front, maintain lead, and start using that. And I caught myself years ago maintaining everything, and boy, did that get me in trouble.
Right.
And I think that you need to be very good at all the different disciplines.
Sure.
You're going to get on courses where they're going to beat you up with a bunch of long stuff, and then when they move you to the close stuff, you're lost because you're jumping out in front of everything.
Right. And disconnected from the target and the speed
Yes.
and matching it. Yep. 100%. It's taken me a while to kind of figure that out. And you basically described kind of how I over time figured things out. Like if it's a slow target, of course you're going to swing through it because you want to get that line. It's slow enough that you can start from behind it and connect with it. If it's, an incomer or something that, you got to touch a little bit, touch the speed, get close to where it's at, and then pull away because you're matching the speed and then connecting with it that way. That makes sense. If it's a far crosser, you got to stay a little bit in front of it because you got to watch it kind of come into your barrel, match the speed, and then make the connection there. So it started to make sense to me as I got more target memory, if you want to call it that, and building my target database. But it took a lot of repetition. It took a lot of shooting to kind of start developing what works for me in a given scenario. Did you work on that when you were first starting, or did it just come naturally and you just did what you did?
You watch other shooters shoot and you pick up a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I was on Fast and Furious years ago, and they filmed a lot in Atlanta, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew Brandon Powell. I've known Brandon for a long time. So I called him up and I said, "Hey, you want to shoot? Yeah, come on down." So we started shooting on the weekends, and I'd watch Brandon. He's pretty amazing the way he comes from behind a target.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to watch a lot of that. And the
And
way
he's doing it on everything, right?
Yeah.
Everything swing through.
Everything. Okay. And, he's just as deadly on a close, right in your face, slow target. He'll work that thing until you think he's going to fall asleep. And when he hits it, he just vapors the thing.
Mm-hmm.
He'll do the same thing on a long target. And I think the come from behind is a great method. Do I want to use it all the time? No. A maintained lead. I like doing that on targets that are, 50 and out. And everything in between, I'm pretty much a pull away shooter.
Okay.
But there's a there's a big difference when you're working a target that's way out there. I believe you don't lose the line with the maintain lead like you do on one going super fast close through a background that's dark. You
Right.
see, it, I don't like jumping in the front of those targets and maintaining them. I like to, you know,
Come from
touch
behind.
touch on the front and you work them a little bit and then pull away. But I think it's easier to hold the line on a long target with the maintain.
Right.
That's but in the medium sized targets, I don't maintain them unless they're super fast.
Right. Right. I can see that. I got to ask you a question about that. So you mentioned the close quartering target, like it's maybe 20, maybe 30 yards away from you, but it's cutting across in front of you and heading out. That's the only target that I have to close my left eye to hit. And I don't know why. Like rabbits I can hit with both eyes open, even if they're close or whatever. But for a close quartering, why do you think that's the case for me? If you were coaching
You're
me right now,
cross-sighting.
I do have a little bit of cross dominance, but I can also be very right dominant, if that makes
Just
sense.
put
So
a
I can control it a little bit, but I think when it's quartering from my right to left, or even my left to right, I have to close an eye to make sure that I'm on that bird properly.
put a rail on your gun,
So I did that. I did that for many, many
and it
years. I
did
had that.
help.
No, 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 absolutely helped. It absolutely helped. I had that long champion sight. It was great. Actually, it
No,
taught
no, no,
me.
no, 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 not a sight.
Oh, you're talking about the rail that blocks your left eye.
Yeah,
Yeah, I used to have that too.
and did that work?
It did, and it taught me the sight picture I needed. So then I ended up taking it off because I hated the way it's a vanity thing for me, Tom.
If it
I
works, why you don't? It's not broke. Don't fix it.
well, so here's what I did though. So I learned what that sight picture looked like and just duplicated that with my just front bead, and I've been fine since. And I figured out kind of what I needed to do, but for the longest time, it bothered the crap out of me, and I couldn't figure it out until I put that. So Ben Huswaite had like I forget what he called it, eye dominance thing. It was really the bead on it was too big though, and I didn't like the bead being that big, so I took the bead off and put a different bead on it. But that rail where it blocks your left eye helped a lot. So, and then I ended up getting a ruby sight, and the ruby sight kind of does the same thing. It blocks the left eye. You only see the bead if you're looking down with your right eye, and that helped as well. But I think it's just the close quartering that I need to I need to close the left eye on that one, or really stare at the barrel. So that kind of leads me to my next question. So are you really barrel aware, or do you mostly focus on the target and just know where the barrel is?
I think every shooter's barrel aware.
Hmm.
Um, in most cases, they're too much aware of the barrel.
Yeah, and that was my learning journey too. I would check
So
the I'd check the barrel. I'd pull back on the barrel too many times.
okay, but are you running a white bead on the front of your gun?
Now I just run my mid bead, and I don't have that issue as much anymore. This was early on and coming up in the classes. I wouldn't be confident. I'd be, how am I going to hit this? And then be checking the lead or checking it. And now that I put my attention out there, I know the barrel's under my eye. It's become much better, and I'm just focused on the target. And I know the barrel's there, but it's like an 80-20, right? 80% on the bird, sometimes 90, with 10-20% back at the barrel.
So you're running a silver bead in the front, a mid bead?
It's a brass bead, mid bead up front with no middle. Yeah,
That's a good choice
yeah.
because a lot of the shooters that I have, I had a I've had a run of new shooters lately, and I got one that's an ex rifle and pistol competitor, and he's hot on the shotguns now. And man, he loves to aim that bead at stuff.
Hmm.
So I took the white bead off and put a silver bead on it, and now his eye isn't stuck on that white bead. Now he's
Right.
starting to understand. Look at the barrel in your peripheral. I mean, you have to be looking at that target, and your peripheral's got that barrel.
Hmm.
Once you start to get it, um, I mean, everybody's going to look at the barrel sooner or later. I mean, I don't care how long you've been shooting. I catch myself barrel checking sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
and um, I just think that when you, it's the first thing I tell people is don't stare at that barrel, and I have them look down the gun and then immediately turn their eyes as far as they can get it off of the gun
Right.
and watch the target, the full field, and then shoot it. And
Right.
then they start hitting it and then they get it.
Yeah.
But trying to explain it to people and get them to understand to stop coming back to that barrel and looking at that barrel before they
Yeah.
pull the trigger. It's a hard thing to get them to do, but once they get it, it becomes pretty easy for them to break targets.
Yeah, I always use different examples when I've taken people out. It's like when you're driving your car. These are bad examples, by the way. I'm just going to preface that before I tell anybody this. But when you're driving your car, you don't look at the hood of your car where it's going. You know where you're going. You're looking where you're going, but you know where the hood is pointing. When you come hit a tennis ball with a racket or a baseball, you're not looking at your racket or your baseball. You're looking at the ball coming in. Your hand eyes know where your racket and ball and the bat is because that's how you make the connection with the thing. And it's similar but
Mhm.
different. You're looking through the barrel, not through it like literally, but just over the barrel through it. And it's as long as you're mounted correctly, you should be able to look at the target and just know where your barrel's at by how you move your body and move your eyes with the target. But it's easier said than done. I mean, even knowing that sometimes, like to your point, you even look at the barrel sometimes after doing this
Uh-huh.
for so long, right? So it's doubt, I think, that comes into people's mind that makes them barrel check. So if you doubt yourself, how have you corrected yourself when you've doubted or barrel checked?
Get my eyes off the rib.
Yeah. So
You know,
bring the gun down, look at the target mostly, and finish the shot with the barrel and the gun in your face.
yes.
Got it. Yeah, and that's helped me too. Zach taught me something where like it's not even a cheat mount. I mount, but then I drop the barrel a little bit out of my eyes, and I'm watching the target. And as I'm finishing the shot, I bring the barrel up to finish the shot.
Yes.
I one of my old shooting buddies, Bruno Lombardo, used to call them brush strokes in the sky. He would just make a brush stroke with the barrel at the very end. He'd look at the target, and then just at the very end, the barrel would just make that last brush stroke. But he's not looking at the barrel though when he pulls the barrel up to his face. I'm paraphrasing what he said, but in gist, that's kind of what I took away from that. And
But see, he's seeing it in his peripheral vision.
yes, yes,
You always got the barrel in your peripheral vision when you're looking at the target. If your
right.
face is on the gun, that barrel's there and you know it's there.
Right, right. It's you have to, right? Because otherwise you don't know if you've got the right sight picture to break it. And when you say sight picture, it's the barrel's in the periphery, but your focus is on the target and matching that target. And Desi said something to me that really, really stuck. And when she said this, it really clicked for me. She said your periphery vision picks up your speed and angle, right? The speed and angle of the thing, and the periphery is the outer part of your vision. And then the central part of your vision, whether the cornea, retina, I don't know the terminology properly, but that's what locks in on the target and slows down the target. And she goes, use your periphery to pick up the speed and angle, but once you lock in with your central vision, that's when you've slowed down the target. That's when you're connected, and that's the best time to probably break the bird. And when she said that, a light bulb went off, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I kind of get what they're trying to say now about locking in." And when I was able to slow down the target with my eyes, I knew I wasn't looking at the barrel anymore. Because if you're looking at the barrel, you're not looking at the target, and you're not slowing down the target. So that helped. But then it became a lesson of, well, what do you do on slow targets or incomers that are coming in? And then you become more barrel aware, right? Because you're almost aiming at those targets a little bit.
Yeah, but if you come from behind the target, you're not going to barrel check like that. There's,
You come from behind. Okay.
if you, on the slower targets, if you're barrel checking, if you come from behind it and you come up and you're looking at that target, you see that barrel come into that target, and then all you do is swipe through it, bang.
So you're saying that on incomers.
I, I've had a lot of trouble with long incomers my whole career, and
Mm-hmm.
I've started something to where when I got a target coming in, if it's going right to left quartering in, I'll start on the right side of that thing and I'll run the right side until I decide that's where I want to take it,
Mm-hmm.
and then accelerate through it and let it go. Because here again, I miss them because I think that I'm barrel checking. I start looking over that barrel and get caught up somewhere
Mm-hmm.
where I shouldn't be. And on the left to rights, I start on the left side and just run with the target until I like it and then swipe through it and let it go.
Yeah.
And I've had great success with that. And that's what I teach my clients. And you know what? They're all doing pretty darn good with that method.
Yeah. You mentioned your eyes have changed over time with age, and that's obviously happening to me as well. I mentioned early in the podcast time when I was talking to Anthony, he was kind of one of the reasons I went and got my eyes checked. Here I am sitting here thinking I've got great eyes, right? My whole life I've had good eyes, and then I find out that I have astigmatism. It's affecting how I see clarity and things. How have your eyes changed over time? You kind of touched on it, I think, either before the podcast or at the beginning. How has it changed for you, and what have you been doing to kind of adjust to that?
Well, there's a there's a scar in the center of my left eye that I can't get rid of.
Okay.
I've been going back and forth to specialists and stuff, and they're telling me it is what it is, and it's good as it's gonna get. I'm
Are
not
you left
settled.
or right-handed? I forget.
I'm right-handed.
Right-handed. Okay. And right eye dominant?
Yes,
Okay.
but I believe that shooters that are really good shots, I think they work their left eye just as much as they do their right eye catching the left-handed targets.
Hmm.
And it's like taping somebody's one of their eyes off. It's a
Right.
handicap. Any way you look at it, you don't want to shoot one-eyed unless you absolutely are forced to. Um, my eyes have changed. I got 20/20 in the right eye. I got 20/50 in the left eye, plus a blind spot. And I had to have the cataract done in the left eye, and I had it done when right after the surgery.
Hmm.
And then I started feeling really off balanced for some reason. So I called the doctor up, and my eye doctor, and Sandra told me, she said, well, it's probably because you have a cataract in the right eye. So I went and had the cataract done, and now uh, it's starting. If I don't think about it, it
Yeah.
doesn't bother me.
Well, so that's interesting that you say that. So you're still shooting well despite all these eye issues, right? I mean, do you think that's because you're better now, or not better now, but just you're better anticipating it and reading the target to compensate for the visual decline, or like what are you doing to deal with that?
Uh, I'm not dwelling on the fact that I have a problem in the left eye. If
Okay.
I quit thinking about it,
Yeah.
uh, I I am still doing okay. I
Okay.
I feel like I'm doing okay. I mean, uh, I'm just not dwelling on it.
I got you.
It,
I want to
it
touch.
pisses me off really bad, but I'm
Oh,
not
I can
dwelling on
imagine,
it.
especially when you went from 2015 to what it is now. But that's
Well, I went through a deal with my contact lenses. My eye doctor says, "Well, you have astigmatism in both eyes." I said, "Okay." Well, she gave me a prescription to fix my prescription for the stigmatism and the correction.
hmm
Good God. I went out to the range and I'm looking, I'm going, are you kidding me? I went back and I said, you had to give me the wrong prescription. She said, no, it's perfect. I says, well, we got to do something because something's wrong. So I took home a set of regular lenses without the stigmatism in the prescription on the contacts. And guess what? I went out and now the targets look normal. But
Okay.
with the correction with the stigmatism, it didn't work for me.
What was your astigmatism, if you don't mind me asking? Like, was it that you couldn't see things at distance, or was it affecting close-up targets? What was it for you?
It was distance.
Yeah. Okay.
And You
I wonder
know,
if that's what astigmatism is, but that's what I have. For things at distance, I see it a little blurry.
yeah. And you know what? They're still blurry. I mean,
Yeah.
I tell Grace every once in a while, I go, hey, that target looks like two. Which one should I shoot? You know?
Yeah.
Uh, but it's all working out.
Yeah. Speaking of Grace, so in the last podcast where we had Grace on, she mentioned about how she met you and how she got, or eventually coached by you. But I want to get your side of the story on this one. So you coach students. You've been coaching students for a number of years. Let's first focus on Grace. Why did you deny Grace a coaching session when she first came to you? I got to know this.
Um,
Am I going to get
I,
you in
I
trouble?
don't know exactly I forget what she said. I watched her podcast. Um, when she first came to me, I was super busy at work. I was shorthanded. I was down a couple guys in my crew. I had two other kids that I was coaching, Damien and Josie, and I just didn't have time.
You didn't want to take on another case, especially
No,
a beginner.
I,
Yeah.
I you know, a lot of times, that it was just hard for me to get an hour with those two or 2 hours.
Right.
And I was pretty devoted to both of them because you know what? They were both shooting really good. I
Hmm.
mean, I
Josie's
started,
a lady champion for California State, I believe.
yeah, she
Yeah.
was. I started her the first day she fired a shotgun on a clay target
Right
and
on.
took her through master class. And um,
She doesn't shoot anymore?
I don't know. I haven't seen Josie. She's used to work it more and more. I
Yeah.
don't know what she's doing.
Okay.
Um, Damien was an incredible junior shooter, and uh, from what I hear, he's working out of state and he's uh, he's doing really well. But uh, John Calandro told me that he's seen him shooting in Texas a couple of years ago, and I haven't seen Damien in probably 7 or 8 years now.
Okay. When a student comes to you for the first time, what are you watching for before you start changing anything with them?
It depends on where they're at. Uh, like, uh, for instance, you come to me and you want a lesson.
Okay.
I'm going to stand there and pick you apart and see what I can improve on. I don't believe that a coach should go out and start reinventing the wheel and starting over. I mean, if you're missing something in your basics, let's add to it. You've already pretty much set yourself in your ways, and I don't believe that you're going to get a whole lot by changing or reinventing the wheel in your shooting techniques.
Right.
You improve on what they know. Now, if I got a couple brand new shooters right now and I'm pounding basics into them and they're coming along really good.
Hmm.
And it depends on the caliber of shooter. You have to work with what comes to you. I mean, I got one student that's been to a whole bunch of coaches, and I'm standing there watching him shoot, and he'd get halfway through a target and the gun stopped.
Mm.
And I'm looking at him going, I don't get why you keep stopping the gun. You're not even to the target and you're stopping the gun. Well, he's got a problem with the rotation in his shoulders.
Mm. Okay.
So we worked on that. Now I got him pitching his body around on the targets that are hard crossers, and he's setting his hip into the end of the shot where he's got enough move to finish. He's got enough swing to finish the shot, and he's starting to do really well with it. But everybody's got a different type of shooting problem.
Yeah. Speaking of which, what's the most common problem that you see amongst let's say an intermediate competitive shooter? Is there common themes or things that you see a lot, or?
You most of the time it comes back to their basics, lousy basics, how
Okay.
they're setting up, where they're starting the gun. Hold points are really important on how you set up on your hold point. Be consistent on your hold point. I see that mistake made over and over and over. And a lot of these intermediate shooters, they don't have a clue of the correct hold points on certain targets, and it just absolutely wipes them out in this station.
I know hold point can be subjective on certain targets, but like, what is like a common rule that you share with them about hold points?
I work on percentages of the flight.
Okay.
I I count the machine, the throwing machine is 0,
Mm-hmm.
where the target drops at 100, and I make them work on percentages. If they're over here 20% off the machine chasing it and they're going to kill it at 90% of the flight, you can't stay in a gun that long.
Right.
I I work with them on hold points and teach them how to work the percentages on where they're going to break the target and look at it and go, okay, I'm going to break it at 80. I'm going to back up to 70, and that's where I'm going to work the target, hard focus, bang into 80, and
Mm-hmm.
break it. I don't believe that uh, a, a lot of these guys understand that. You watch them go out, a lot of the intermediate shooters, and they start getting too close to the machine, and they're beat before they ever call pull.
Right.
And when they do call pull, they're a mile behind, and they're not going to catch the target if it's a fast target. I think that the hold points really help you a lot with your scores.
Yeah, agreed. When do you, leave a student's technique alone and not change them? Because even though it's not something that you would do, but it seems to be working for them.
Hit me with that again. Sorry.
So, when do you leave a student's technique alone, even though if it's not something that you would do?
When they're able to stand there and hit 10 in a row.
Okay.
And I like to ask the students, hey, what target gives you the most problems? They'll tell me. We'll go sit there and watch them shoot it. And I like to get them to the point where when we're doing a lesson, I really like to see repetition in breaking the target over and over and over in the same identical spot that they're comfortable in. And when they can do that, then I'm satisfied that they understand. But um, I don't avoid the hard targets. I always work on stuff that I need to work on, but I always work on shooting 10 in a row is and break them in the same place. Keep your timing going. And I think that goes a long way. Um, One thing I would touch on is, gun fit. Most, if you go down the line in a registered shoot, I'll bet you half the shooters out there, their guns don't even come close to fitting them correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And the point of impact, they have no clue where it is. And I'm a firm believer that you have to know the point of impact, and the impact has to be where your eye is looking over the barrel, and everybody sees something different over the barrel.
Right. What's your setup as?
Mine is shooting my gun. I've always shot a high gun because I came from the trap world, and I mean, I shot a 90% high gun in off the 27-yard line. Um, my sporting gun right now shoots about 65 to 70,
Okay.
probably close to 70 because I'm kind of lazy about putting my face in the stock.
Mm-hmm.
So when I do pattern it and pattern it right, it's about 70% high
Okay. When you're in the gun.
when I'm in the gun.
When you're in the gun. Got it. Okay. So then it must be even higher if you're not touching the stock.
Mm-hmm.
So does it feel like you're floating it then?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So you're seeing a lot of gap between the barrel and the gun itself because you want to be able to see the target.
Yes.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
I went through a whole, I want to say almost like 2 years of where I was trying to figure out point of impact and what was right for me and what I needed to see. Because unlike a Joe Finizzi, for example, where he's barely on the stock, and unlike an Anthony Matarese, where he's really in the stock, I'm kind of like, I just want to touch it. I don't want to be in it. I don't want to be off of it. I just want it to touch as soon as it comes to my face. And I tend to shoot FITAS better that way. And there's times I feel like I'm floating a target, and there's times I feel like I'm right on the target. And so it took me a long time to kind of figure out that feel and what the sight picture would look like and what each presentation would look like. But how do you help someone with that journey, figuring out what's the right point of impact for them?
I think the best way to do it is not on a pattern board.
Yeah.
I, Pattern boards are a joke, in my opinion.
Yeah, because I mean, it doesn't give you the same feedback you really need, right? It's just telling you where the gun is shooting if it was on its own without you behind it. I feel like it.
Well, the most common thing I hear about a pattern board is everybody goes, "Oh, I patterned my gun and it's such a beautiful circle." Well, no kidding, it's coming out of a pipe. You know, I mean, you know, I I think that there's a very fine way of learning where your gun shoots. It involves setting up a straightaway, not very far away. Just lock
Like a
them
trap
in
target.
like a trap target and stand there and experiment with the height of your comb coming up and touching that target. And if and you take a full choke and put it in both barrels and stand there until you can absolutely fog that target every single shot
Hmm.
and not have to adjust your face or where you're looking at the gun opposed to the target. If you take and do that, you'll learn a lot about your pattern and where your eye is seeing. And if you take your comb and adjust it a 16th at a time and go back and forth, you'll find the spot that you need to be
Right.
really quick.
Absolutely. Or are you thinking off the 16 yard, for example, for people out there that are looking to do this? Where would
Even
you start?
closer.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. About 10 yards behind the machine where you got a big dome sitting right in front of you and you can adjust your comb. The worst part is, unless you have somebody look at it, you're not going to get the side to side right.
Hmm.
And that's really important. But once you get the side to side, then work on where your eye is really seeing that target. A lot of guys go, "Well, I come up and touch the bottom of the target and I watch them. They're on top of the target." And I I think that everybody's eyes see something different over the rib. I really do.
No, absolutely. I mean, that's been the weirdest thing for me too is so I'll have coaches in the past who, when they're watching me shoot, they're telling me I'm doing something completely different than what I'm seeing. And then I've
Mm-hmm.
had coaches that know exactly what I'm doing and what I'm seeing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know where the disconnect is there. It's probably me, right? I'm the variable in that. Either I'm sitting up wrong or I'm not looking at it right or whatever it was when I was doing this. But I think there are coaches out there that I could trust what they're saying because they're exactly explaining what I'm seeing. Like I said, Desi and Zach were one of those people for me. Desi was looking at me shoot one time and she's like, "Did you just do blah 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 blah?" And I'm like, "Yes." And I'm like, how did you know that?" She wasn't even standing right behind me. She was just close enough that she could see how I was moving and what I was doing with the barrel. And she goes, "Because I used to do that, and I understand." And we have similar astigmatism too. And she just knew exactly what. And then she changed what I needed to do to make me hit that. So I think there's some coaches out there that absolutely can understand what you're doing, but there's some that just think that they see what you're doing. These people that tell others like, "Oh, you are over here," when they're standing off to the side and not even behind the shooter. I think that's the most laughable thing out there, where people can pretend they know what you saw when they're standing 10 feet to your right and never saw down your barrel or what you were looking at. What do you think about that? Have you ever seen that?
I see it all the time.
Yeah.
See it all the time.
And I'm like, you don't know what they saw. You don't know what the lead was when you were standing 10 feet off to the right when this person was shooting that target. Give me a break. But that
Yeah.
happens a lot. A lot of people will say, oh, you were behind it, or you were this, or you were that. But they were themselves 10 feet behind him off to the right. I just don't get, I don't get that side of it, but
Yeah. And they're calling behind.
right.
Yeah. No, I see it all the time.
So how do you teach your students to self-diagnose?
Good basics.
Yeah. What
Once,
questions do you go through to get them to self-diagnose why they missed or what they did?
when they miss, I ask them, why'd you miss? And a lot of times, it takes a while to get them into that point when they're first starting out.
Mm-hmm.
But once they stop barrel checking and everything, they start to get the eye for, they'll turn around and go, hey, I was behind that, right? Yeah. Hey, I was in front of that, right? Yeah. It's all about looking at
Developing their eye for it.
yes, 100%. But
Yeah.
if you start out on the target, it's pretty rare that if you make a mistake, you don't know it. If you're matching the speed and everything's going along good and you miss, you know what's wrong because you're pretty keyed into it. And I don't believe that shooters uh, that have had really good basics, they pick up on that stuff really quick. And sometimes you're gonna hit a wall with them, but not very often.
When you first started, were you shooting high volumes of ammunition or was your practice like more deliberate?
When I first started sporting clays,
Yeah.
uh, it started out pretty slow, but as I started really understanding the game and I really started shooting quite a bit. But my practice, it was hard for me to get a day off or an
Mm-hmm.
afternoon off, and I don't like shooting in the dark. So more and more's been lit uh, pretty much the whole time they've been there. I think probably 2 years after they went in business, they lit the whole course, and you could shoot at night. But I don't really care. You have no depth perception at night, and I don't really care for shooting at night much.
Mm-hmm.
So it was hard for me to get off during the day and go up and practice. I had to keep my practice to a Sunday morning.
Was there something that you spent years doing or practicing that you eventually realized wasn't important?
Not really.
Not really. Okay, so everything you've been kind of working on has been this is what's going to take you to the next step, next level to be the best.
Well, you got to go out and you got to work on the problems.
Yeah.
Like I tell my students, you know what, it doesn't do you any good to go burn your credit card down. If you're not getting quality practice and you're not learning anything, you're going out with your buddies and shooting true pairs at every station. I don't believe you're getting much out of it.
Right.
I think you get a lot more out of going out and working on hard quartering shots and you know big teal shots, big driven trap shots. I think you really need to spend a lot of time on that type of stuff because everywhere you go, you see it now.
Do you think the sporting clays is becoming like an overcoached sport, if you will? I'm sorry, that sounds like it's a loaded question by me asking you that, but it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm genuinely
Yeah.
asking because I feel like there's a lot of people coming in and coaching now, you know?
Uh, uh, man, you put me on the spot with that one. Yes.
Yeah, right. I mean, here's the thing. I mean, there's so much information coming out these days, right? I mean, my podcast, for example, this podcast didn't even exist, what, 7, 8 years ago, right? For the sport. So there's a lot of information coming out now, a lot of people that are becoming coaches. Um, yeah, I just wonder, is it overcoached at this point? And so all the pros are coaching how they supplement their income. But I don't know.
Well, that's a that's a loaded question, Henning. But you know what? I hear both sides of that. Oh, you don't have to be a good shot to be a good coach. I don't believe that for 1 minute. Okay. If I'm going to go get coached,
Hmm.
guess what? You can probably think of the names that I'm going to go to.
Right.
I'm going to go to somebody that's the closest to me,
Right.
okay, that has the credentials and been there and done that.
Right.
Okay. I'm not going to go to the local coach and I I can probably outshoot him. Why
Right.
am I going to go take a lesson from him? I
Right.
don't. I don't. I don't. I believe there's a big disconnect in that and a lot of BS because these coaches go out. Oh yeah, I can teach you to do this and this and this, and you see the guy that started in C class and he's still in C class 5 years later.
Right.
I think that you have to go to somebody. Not only do you have to have a good fit with your coach, you have to get better right
Right.
off the bat.
What's the point then if you're not getting better with your coach, right?
You need to go find another coach. If you're not a good fit with your coach, you need to go find another coach.
Should a shooter have one coach? Do you think once they find the right person, should
Huh?
they just have the one?
That's I have students that have come to me and asked me that, and one of my students been a friend of mine for years. He says, "Hey, Dan Carlisle's coming to town. Should I take a lesson?" I said, "It'd probably be really good for you."
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with that at all. I think it's just like anything else. The more information you get, the better you're going to be.
Right. Right. The reason why I bring up that question though is sometimes I feel like I've gone to so many different people just to pick pieces from them, right? And I have picked really great nuggets from everybody that I've worked with, whether it be professional shooters or just the average weekend warrior or whatever it is. There's always been a nugget I can grab and incorporate into my own thing. But one thing I've lacked is a long-term relationship with a coach who has seen my progression over my whatever you want to call it. I want to call it a career because that sounds cheesy, but over my journey, right? And I think you look at like a David Radulovich and a Tom C with the Wendell Cherry, he's they've worked together for however many years, 10, 20 years, and it feels like there's like a deeper connection there with that coach and mentee relationship. So there probably is some benefit to that too, right? But it just depends.
Like I said, you have to really click with your coach.
Yeah.
If you're not clicking with the coach, I don't believe you're going to go very far.
Right. Right.
If
That
you
makes
don't,
sense.
if you're not gonna click with him and believe in what the coach is doing, you're not gonna settle in with it. And
Yeah.
I think that that's a huge mistake. I mean, I've watched it for a long time, and uh, I tell my clients the same thing. Hey, if you don't feel comfortable, you need to go try somebody else.
Hmm.
And I coach a lot, and I have a lot of fun at it. It's not a job to me. I don't care. The thing I care about is watching the people I coach accelerate through the classes and get to their goals. That's my goal.
Hmm.
And I have a lot of different shooters that have done really well.
Hmm. No, you have. But what about you? Are you still trying to become a better shooter?
Every time I step on the line.
What are you working on now?
Well, that's a long story. I've been through gun after gun after gun. I made a big mistake years ago. I shot a Perazzi MX8 for 23 years. And I went to Las Vegas and they had a big shoot up in Las Vegas. And I went up there and I usually don't mess around with the make or breaks or anything. And I went up there and not knowing what was going to go on, I walked up, shot one of the high scores in the make or break. So now I'm thinking, okay, well, I won some money. Well, now they come up with this uh, top 8 shootout. So it's only 110 or 112 degrees up there. So I get in the shoot off, one after another after another. Well, my barrels come apart on my gun.
Oh no.
And I've never been able to I had them fixed and I never got the point impacts back where they were, and I just parked the gun. So I've been through quite a few guns, and now I got a DT11 that I had at the state shoot, and that was the first shoot for that gun with the stock on it.
What was the gun that the barrels heated up on? If you don't mind.
Perazzi DT11 or Perazzi MX8.
Oh, really? It was the Perazzi that burnt up like that.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
It was so hot hitting, I could have fried eggs on the barrel. And
Yeah.
you know what? I knew better, and I shouldn't have done it, but I kept standing there shooting it, and it just went away on me. When I got home, the ribs were popping off, and that was, and they took and I had them fixed, and I just never felt confident in the gun again. So I went to an A400 for a while. I like that. It's a great shooting gun.
I think I remember that. Wasn't that even last year?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just don't like loading it, and it's kind of a pain, but it shoots good.
Yeah, it does. It's a great gun.
I never got a stock that I really liked, and then I was back at a shoot, and Buzzy at Beretta loaned me one of his guns to shoot. I wanted to try it, and I went out and shot it. I told Buzzy, I said, "Hey man, I love this stock." And he goes, "Well, I got one at home, so I bought a stock from Buzzy, and that's the gun I got." And I had a couple other stocks built and shot them occasionally good, and never quite felt all that good with them. And this stock here and this gun is just it feels like home again.
Well, I mean, with the MX8, you've had it for a long time, though, right? I mean, have you considered ever going back to an MX8 or?
No.
Okay.
No, I think that Beretta is probably the barrels on them. I don't think there's anything out there any better.
Yeah.
Those DT11s and the SL2s, the barrel technology in those things is incredible, and man, do they shoot good.
Yeah.
And I really like my DT11.
Right.
I had one had a lot heavier barrels on it, and I was barrel dragging a lot, and I didn't like it, so I went to a new DT11 with a little bit lighter barrels on it. And this gun works really well for me. I'm really happy with it so far.
How's your gun balance? Is it in the center? Is it by the receiver, behind the hinge pin? Do you have it front?
It's center balanced.
Okay. So you like a well-balanced, center balanced gun?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
With the weight in between your hands?
Yes.
Okay. Well, just kind of, I know we've been going for a little bit, but I wanted to ask you a few more questions. Since you've been doing this so long, what advice would 2026 Tom give 1993 Tom? The California champion 1993 Tom.
I'm doing it the same way, Henning.
Really? Changed. So 1993 wouldn't tell 2026 Tom anything either to worry about or anything? No?
Nope.
Everything's the same.
Everything's the same.
You're the same shooter in 93 that you are in 2026, other than some.
Well, no. I mean, Henning, no shooter, no shooter's going to get up in age and shoot like they used to.
Right.
And, that's kind of, uh, all the guys are going to get there sooner or later.
Yeah.
Then they're going to understand. But, it's been a transition with my hand and everything.
You're
I
shooting
lost.
release now, right?
Oh yeah, but
Yeah.
I went through a couple surgeries on my hand, my right hand, and I lost feeling. I shot for 2 years with no feeling in my hand,
Mm-hmm.
and that's that's a hard thing to do.
How
But
has the transition to the release trigger been for you? Because I know that I feel like people eventually, if you shoot in this long enough and you've been doing this for 30 plus years, that recoil catches up. And this is what I hear. I don't know if this is actual truth, but recoil catches up to you and then the flinching starts to happen. And I've seen this happen to a lot of older shooters that I've, shot with, pivoting to the release trigger, but it's a major change in shift for them. So how's that been for you?
um, well, Norm Smith, right?
Norm, yes. He's the legacy shooter, right?
Yeah,
He's a hell of a shot too, by the way.
he's one of my students, and me and Norm have been friends for a long time. And I was shooting a pull trigger for a long, long time and got along with it really good. But then the flinching started, and Norm says, "Hey, you ought to try a release." I said, "Hey, no."
No one wants to try a release,
So then we went to a California state championship, and I flinched on the first day. I put about 9 or 10 targets in the ground, not being able to pull the trigger.
Hmm.
And Norm says, you need to go to a release trigger. And I said, no. Okay. I wasn't about ready. So I walked off, lost that state shoot, and walked off and told Norm, I'm gonna dump this sport. I've had enough. So a couple days goes by, and I'm thinking, you know what? Maybe I ought to try that release trigger. Called Norm up. Norm gets in his car from Santa Barbara, drives down, brings me a set of release triggers for an MX8. And the Parazzis, all the triggers are interchangeable. I slam the releases in it, and um, shot the ground quite a few times. Went up to more and more, and we walked out there, and I would call pull and let it go. I shot everything on the hillside but the target. Well, finally, I started to get the hang of it, and 2 weeks later, I won the last Zone 7 that was held down at Ben Avery. That was the last of those Zone 7s. Then it
Oh,
went.
wait a second. You were shooting release that long since zones were around?
Yes, sir.
Oh, shoot. Okay, I didn't know that. I thought
Yeah.
it was a recent thing for you.
No, 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 no.
Okay.
I switched 2 weeks before that Zone 7, and I went down there and won the Zone 7. I didn't get. I was working. I couldn't get off Friday. I drove down there Friday night, and I got to shoot the main, and that was it. The main and I think I shot the 5 stand too, but I ended up winning the main 2 weeks into the release trigger, and then I was sold. They were the greatest thing since sliced bread. Uh, they're a pain. Trying to keep a release trigger running, and they're really difficult.
Really? So mechanically, they're a little bit more challenging because of the way they operate, or
Well, there's not very many guys that are really that good with release triggers.
you mean working on them?
Working on them and building
Got
them,
it. Got it. Okay.
and a lot of the releases, uh, it depends on how much pressure. The set pressure, and the let off pressure is critical on a release, and you have to have 2 pounds of more set than you do release.
Hmm.
Otherwise, you start getting 2 years ago at the state shoot. I was shooting my Grand American Perazzi because I didn't have a gun to shoot. So I got my old trap gun out and I was shooting my Grand American. And I I let a gunsmith work on it and he put the wrong release pressure on it. And the gun, you can ask Brian Elia. I shot the FITAS event. I was in the middle of the FITAS event, and that gun probably double fired, both barrels at the same time. Probably almost every single I shot that day, the gun would double on me.
Mm.
And finally, they started taking targets from me, and they took a couple targets from me on the last parkour because the gun double fired on the first one of the pairs.
Yeah.
So they took 2 targets from me. So releases are hard to deal with. Not only that, you got to figure that, you know, when you're pulling a trigger, it's bang bang. With the release, you got to let off, then reset and let off again. And it's a challenge to shoot them.
No, I've tried a couple just for funsies, and it's weird. I can't get used to it.
Stay away.
Yeah. Well, if as long as I can, I will. You know, I don't know if I'm going to try to go to a release on purpose, but
well, this year 60. As of yesterday, it's 60 years of it.
Yeah. Happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's right.
Just 60 years.
Congratulations.
And you know what? I'm surprised I don't have Browning stamped in my shoulder. Well, you know what ear protection they had when I was a kid?
What's that?
Cotton balls.
Really?
Yeah. You might as well not have anything.
Right.
And recoil.
They didn't have the cans back then? No?
No.
Really?
No. They'd go to the rifle range, you know, shooting all the big high powers. I'd go to the rifle range with my dad and all his friends wanting to go deer hunting. And I'd sit there and shoot my 22 when I was a kid. And everybody's wearing cotton in their ears.
That's too funny.
Well, now I wonder why I'm, you know, having a hard time hearing anything. But back then, Browning, if you didn't have a Browning superposed, you didn't have a decent shotgun. Well, Brownings didn't come with the recoil pad back then. They had a plastic butt plate that said Browning on it. And that's what I shot for years, my Browning Broadway.
That's too funny.
And you know, that thing today, I don't think I could even shoot that gun today. I mean,
the Broadway though, that was a nice gun. As much as I don't like wide ribs anymore, it was a nice gun. That side picture looked really good back then.
That was a Rolls Royce of shotguns back.
Yeah, it was. It's a good, and they were made really well too.
They still. Brownings had about 7 to 9 inches of choke in them. Those guns shot really well, and they had 724 main bores in them.
Oh, really? Even back then? Okay.
Yeah, if you ever want to hear about release triggers and all that, I got the guy for you to do a podcast with, Kerry Aller.
Okay.
One of my best friends. He's in Michigan. He's probably one of the best barrel men in the world. I mean, this guy, he's amazing on release triggers.
Yeah, we might try to get something about that. I think more people don't know about it, and I probably need to know a little bit more about it. So it'd be nice to have someone who has some expertise in that.
He's the man to talk to.
Yeah.
He is
pretty good.
Unbelievable when it comes to, he was the one that invented pro porting on the shotguns, the pigeon porting. That's Kerry's design.
Okay.
He used to work for ProPort years ago.
Is that the predecessor to Angleport?
No.
Was it a different company?
Yeah, different company.
Okay.
ProPort does all the big African big game rifles and all the, the big caliber pistols, all the 460 pistols. They do all the muzzle brakes on them and everything.
Okay.
But Kerry's real knowledgeable.
So Tom, you've been doing this for, over 30 years, you know? When you walk into the box now and call pull, like what's keeping you in this game nowadays?
Grace.
Grace? Okay. She's
Yeah.
keeping you in there. She did mention in her podcast that she's got to pull your leg to get you to go out and shoot these days. But really though, is that all it is, or you enjoy watching her go through it? Or I mean, she's had success and she's doing well, so that's motivating you.
Yes.
That's great.
Yeah. I,
You
you
don't
know,
have anything left to prove. You don't want to prove anything. You've kind of done it and accomplished it. So
no, you know what? I still enjoy shooting.
yeah,
Um, it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it, and I just I'm not that excited about going to the shoots anymore.
sure.
I mean, to me, I just soon stay home.
Mm,
So, and there's not in the as you go up in the classes, there's not much to do in the concurrence.
that's right. Yeah. And there's not a lot of recognition, unfortunately, for the concurrence either. It seems like it.
Well, uh, they're going to have to change that if they want to keep the older guys in the sport
Yeah.
and the kids, because I'll tell you what. Um,
And the ladies, frankly, right? I mean, there's not even
well,
ladies. There's a little
the
bit now, but
the ladies got the Winchester tour and stuff like that, and that's
right.
pretty good.
Yeah. No, that's definitely an improvement. But I'm even noticing it on a bigger scale. I mean, look, there's not as many women shooters, but there are definitely a lot of senior veteran, super vet, legacy, well, not legacy, but other shooters. So I'm wondering why that there hasn't been attention there.
Do the percentages on what percentages of shooters are in the classes?
It's got to be vet and super vet, right?
Super all the way through. All the concurrents are probably 60. I'll bet you 60% of the shooting public are in concurrent.
Mm. So why the lack of attention there, you think?
I don't know, but they're making a big mistake.
Yeah.
You know,
They being the NSCA or local regional shoots and
the
clubs or
regional shoots, they're doing run backs.
yeah,
They're not shooting off. You get nothing for going.
right.
And the trophies, I don't know. I've seen, uh, I was pretty fortunate to shoot years ago, trap shooting and stuff when they were giving away gold coin belt buckles, even sporting clays, giving away, $20 gold pieces, $10 gold piece belt buckles. And you don't see that anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't quite know what happened, but, a lot of the older people, uh, I think I know quite a few that have already stopped going to the big shoots because of it. So we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But until then, I'm hoping there's some change around that and some recognition for those concurrents.
Well, in California, the board has stepped up and we try and get the best trophies that we can possibly afford for the shooters and made a big change in California. I mean, when I came on the board, they were giving away wood plaques,
Mm,
and that's all changed. Now the shooters, all their money that comes from targets is going back into the association. The association's buying nice trophies for the kids, all the concurrents, the open. Everybody's getting something worth taking home.
right. No, I think you guys have done a great job on the board, and thank you again. Because honestly, I think one of those roles are really thankless in a lot of ways. A lot of people don't realize the work that goes into it. I mentioned it in Grace's podcast as well. So appreciate everything that you've done for California clay shooting here in our state, and all the work and hours that you've put into it. So thank you.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. It's a thankless job. The only thing I hear is all the bitching. And they have no clue.
It wouldn't be shooting without a little bit of whining, though, right?
There's always crybabies, but the funny thing was, John Townsend. John.
I do. Yeah.
He was bitching at me one day. and I'd about him and some other people were bitching at me. Well, where's the minutes? Where's this? Where's that? And I kind of got nasty with John, and I says, tired of hearing all the bitching. I said, since you're so concerned about what we're doing, why don't you get on the board? He did.
Right. He did. He did.
So
And he
guess
joined
what?
and he's been contributing, right?
That was a win-win for the association, because I'll tell
Right.
you what, he's been a real asset.
Yeah.
He being secretary. I mean, he's done a absolutely unbelievably great job.
Yeah,
So,
I think that's a really good point that you asked him to join. A lot of times folks don't realize the work that goes into being on the board and supporting this hobby that we have, this sport that we love. But it takes a small village to make all this stuff work. It's not just being done for free. The clubs aren't, the clubs can only do so much. Shooters have to get involved and participate and help their their local state out with some of this stuff if they really have a passion for it or an opinion on what needs to change. So I think that's the easiest way they can make change and affect change.
well, the board's a challenge. I can tell you that.
Sure, all boards are, but
Yeah, this one will make you pull your hair out.
well, I don't have any hair to pull out, so
Well,
I don't think I should join it.
you know, I mean, there's so much that goes into the board and the state
Sure.
shoots and everything, and I mean, everybody's on the board. Everybody's hands on, and uh, it's a tough thing to deal with.
It is. It
And
is.
I like it, but every time there's a couple of years ago, every time there was a shoot Sunday night, my phone started blowing up, bitching about something, and finally it stopped. Everything's been quiet lately, so I like that.
Well, that's evidence of you guys doing good work. So again, thank you for all the work that you've done.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, Tom, thank you for joining me too on the podcast. I really do appreciate it. It's been good to get a download from you about the history of California clay shooting, get your background and kind of your perspective on things. So I really appreciate you joining me on this. I think we've got some good information here for a lot of people. And would love to have you on again if people have questions or anything like that. If you can answer any questions that come up,
Absolutely.
we'll definitely shoot those questions over to you. But thank you again for your time. I really do appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Andy.
Yep, anytime.
Appreciate it.
We'll see you on the range.
Okay.
All right, take care.
Bye.